Hey, it's Hoz here with a brand new WordPress tips and tricks episode. And in today's episode, I'm going to replace text in WordPress. That is, I'm going to be replacing a string of text in WordPress. Now, in my case, on one of my main websites where I have a ton of pages, I had the phone number here in the footer. It was a phone number that I was using. I was hiring a business number, an 0800 number, which is a free number. And I'd had that number for about 2-3 years. Now, recently, I had to change that number. And the reason being because I'm getting an unprecedented amount of calls from people asking where their broadband installation is. And then I end up having to explain that I'm not a broadband provider. And I should really record some of those conversations because some people are just unbelievable. One of them actually accused me of lying. They thought it was a delaying tactic. Oh, anyway, I had enough. I don't know whether the number is very similar or actually I wonder if the broadband company, somebody, whichever nugget set up the support page actually typed in my number. Maybe they mistyped it. Either way, the number's gone. Now, I built a website a long time ago and the actual phone number in the footer was an individual string at the bottom of every single page. These days, I use a theme called Beaver Builder, and I'll put a link to that at the description below this video. And what that enables me to do is create modules. So for example, I would create a module and insert my phone number and then drop the module at the footer. And then that module would appear at the footer of every page. But the point is that if I ever need to change my number, I only have to edit the module once, save it, and of course, every number on the website is actually just the same module, so they would all update. It's the same as creating a function in programming, so you can call that function and reuse it rather than have to keep coding the same thing over and over. Okay, so in my case, every single page had a unique number at the bottom, which meant I only had two options. I could either edit every single page and change my number, or I could log into PHPmyAdmin, drill down to my database and actually create a query to do a find and replace. Now, if this ever happens to you and you have above, let's say 5 or 10 pages, or rather 5 or 10 instances of the string of text that you actually want to replace, then you don't really want to do that manually. At the same time, writing and executing a query to find and replace isn't everybody's cup of tea, and around here we like to do things the easy way. So I actually logged into PHPmyAdmin, drilled down to my database, and then I thought somebody must have created a plugin around that very query, and lo and behold, I was correct. So let's pretend in this example that the text that we want to change is this: yes, they call me host. That's at the footer of every single page in this demo website. Okay, so what I'm going to do is from yes, they call me host. Let me copy that to my clipboard and let's go to the plugin area. Okay, so let me remember what this thing was called. It was called find and replace, I think. Okay, it's not actually the one that oh, there it is, search and replace. This is the one that I used. But if you look at these ones that I've just seen here, they've just caught my eye. Find and replace all the strings from all the fields of all the tables. Okay, that's a bit of a mouthful and it's actually a very strange sentence. You don't really want to replace all the strings, you only want to replace one. But this is the same thing. And this one here, WP find and replace content into pages and posts. Okay, so really we have a choice of plugins. Now, with this particular plugin, or these plugins rather, I have no history on them. I don't know who the developers are. I don't know anything about the plugin, but this isn't something that I'm going to be using full time. It's not going to be active on the website. It's something that I want to install once, run, and then delete. Okay, so just do a little bit of research to be ultra safe, okay? But as I say, I use this one without any problems. There are 100,000 active installs, which most of the time is a good thing. Okay, so let's click on install. As I said that, I remember that one particular plugin that was very, very popular got hit with a backdoor Trojan. And no one knew it was there until obviously somebody found it. But by then it was too late for a lot of websites. So don't always go by the number of active installs. because it is a double-edged knife. I do look at the active installs just to make sure that there are a lot of people using it, based on the fact that if it wasn't working properly, there'd be a lot of people complaining, and the star rating would probably reflect that. Whereas if it has 2 active installs and a 5-star rating, there's not really enough user data there. But that's only the first thing I look at when I install a plugin. I then look at who the developer is, and I try and find out a little bit about them, especially if I'm going to be using the plugin a long term. So let's click on activate and let's get this done. So if I remember well, this was on the tools. There it is, search and replace on the tools. And this is good actually, because you have a backup database tab. So I'm going to back up my database file. Okay, so there it is, and I'm going to download my SQL file, and now I have a backup. Now this isn't the way that I back up my websites before I do anything. I'll put a link in the description of this video to the WordPress tips and tricks episode where I actually show you what I use and how I back up my websites. But in this case, because I see that there's a tab that has a SQL import, I figure that if this thing screws up, at least you can import it from the same tool. So that's good. Okay, so search and replace. This is going to show you all the tables in your database. And let me paste my clipboard. So what I wanted to swap here was, yes, they call me Hawes. I'm going to change that to, yes, I'm Hawes. Okay, so this is exactly the same query that I was talking about. It's going to do a find and replace SQL query, and it's going to run it against every table in the database. And when it finds that string of text, yes, they call me Hawes, it's going to change, who are they? It's going to change it to yes, I'm Hawes. So I'm going to select all tables. Actually, that makes me think, oh yeah, you can actually select a single table if you know where that is. But for ease, let's just select all tables. Now, you can leave the dry run there enabled, and a dry run is basically a test run. So it would run through all the tables and then show you what it's found. You might want to do a dry run and just see how many instances of that text string there were and whether they were replaced. I'm not going to do a dry run in this case. Let's have a look. I'm just going to do a search and replace, and there it is. 20 tables were processed, 1 cell needs to be updated. Okay, that's not what I was expecting. So, okay, the dry run thing is actually enabled. I wonder why. I wonder if on the first run, it has to be a dry run just to make sure that it's not going to screw up. So, okay, let's try running it again. Oh, this is why. I'm sorry, I didn't see this. Export SQL file with changes. No, I don't want to do that. I want to save the changes to the database. So I want to find that string of text, replace it, and actually save it to the database, overwrite the data. So let's do a search and replace. And of course, the search field is now empty. Do you know what? Seriously? Oh, okay. So yes, never do things live. Yes, I'm Hawes. Okay. Now, no, let's not do a dry run. Okay, so save changes to the database. Select all tables. Okay, let's do a search and replace, and let's hope that this time it works. Okay, oh no. 20 tables were processed, 1 cell needs to be updated. What do you mean it needs to be updated? So that's the actual data. That's what it's found. It's the data inside the database. It's a snapshot, which is really cool. And let me just refresh that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's done it. Hawes. Yes, I'm Hawes. So it's actually done that. Now, for some reason, I got confused here with the messaging. It's because of this. One cell needs to be updated. Okay, I think the debugging, the actual printing out of this text is poor. It's this to be updated that threw me. Obviously, what it should say here is 20 tables were processed, 1 cell was updated. Okay, so apart from that, I can live with that. You can see that this is a huge time saver. Not to mention, it shields you from having to mess around with your database, from writing raw queries, and potentially really screwing up your website. The nice added bonus if you're doing this on a live website is the fact that you can use a dry run just to check that everything is okay. So once again, that's the search and replace plugin, and that's how you replace a string of text on WordPress, or in WordPress, on. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. It's been fabulous, apart from the pear-shaped middle bit where the messaging was a bit screwed up. But yeah, this is good. So remember to hit subscribe so I can keep on giving you these nice little tips and tricks. I'll see you on the next episode.